Welcome to the Deep Dive. Get ready, because today we're heading back, way back, to the late Cretaceous of South America.
That's right.
We're zeroing in on a really interesting giant, Aeolosaurus.
Yeah, Aeolosaurus. And we've got some great material to work with, mostly pulling from a pretty comprehensive Wikipedia page on it.
Okay.
It covers, the classification, how it was discovered, what it looked like, its family tree, lots of detail.
So our mission for this deep dive, pull out the really cool, fascinating stuff about this windy lizard. And yeah, we'll definitely get to that name. We want you to get a solid feel for Aeolosaurus, but, without needing a PhD to follow along.
Sounds good.
Okay, let's start right there. That name, Aeolosaurus. It's unusual. What's the story?
It is a great name, isn't it? So Aeolosaurus comes from Aeolus, a figure from Greek mythology, the keeper of the winds.
Okay.
And then you just add saurus, meaning lizard. The Aeolus part is because the first fossils were found down in Patagonia.
Right, famously windy down there.
Exactly. Super windy region. So the name basically means Aeolus's lizard, or like you said, the wind lizard.
That really sets the scene. And the first species they identified?
That would be Aeolosaurus rhinogrinus. The second part, rhinogrinus, that's a nod to the Rio Negro province in Argentina.
Where it was found?
Precisely. That's where the first bones turned up. So the name itself tells you a bit of his origin story.
Okay, so tell us more about that discovery. Where exactly did these first bones come from?
Right, so the holotype, it's the original specimen used to describe the species, sort of the reference standard.
Gotcha.
It was discovered in Argentina in the Angostura Colorado Formation. Geologically, that puts it in the Campanian stage of the late Cretaceous.
Which is about when?
Roughly 83 to 74 million years ago. And it wasn't a complete skeleton, they rarely are.
Sure.
But it was decent. 7 tail vertebrae, bits of both front legs and the right hind leg, enough to know they had something new.
Wow, even from those parts. So who was the paleontologist who put it all together and gave it the name?
That was Jamie Powell, an Argentinian paleontologist. He named both the genus Aeolosaurus and that first species, A. rhinogrinus, back in 1987.
Okay.
But there's a little quirk in the story. He first published the name in his PhD dissertation.
Ah, I see where this might be going. Rules.
Exactly. Under the rules, the ICZN rules for naming animals, a dissertation doesn't quite count for formal naming. So technically, the names weren't considered official until they were published elsewhere the next year. His thesis was eventually published later, in 2003, which sometimes mixes people up on the date.
Huh. Yeah, even naming dinosaurs has red tape. So were other Aeolosaurus species found later?
Yes, a couple. In 2007, Aeolosaurus colhuapensis was named, also from Patagonia.
Okay, another Argentinian one.
Right, and then there was Aeolosaurus maximus, named in 2011, this one from Brazil. But science marches on.
Oh, what happened?
Well, in 2021, after more study, A. maximus got moved out of Aeolosaurus altogether. It's now in its own genus called Arredatodon.
Wow, okay, so it got reclassified. That happens, right?
Oh, definitely. As we learn more, analyze features more closely, the family tree gets tweaked. It shows the process is working.
So the windy lizard's family tree got a little prune. Okay, let's think bigger picture. We know late Cretaceous. How widespread was Aeolosaurus, time-wise and location-wise?
It actually had a pretty good run, both in time and space. Fossils linked to the genus Aeolosaurus pop up in several different formations in Argentina.
Not just the first spot.
No, places like the Allen Formation, Lago Colhuapi, Los Alamitos, besides the Angostura Colorado. And importantly, remains have also turned up in Brazil, in the Serra da Galga Formation.
So Argentina and Brazil.
Yeah. And time-wise, we're talking finds dated to both the Campanian and the later Maastrichtian ages of the late Cretaceous. So it was around for millions of years across a decent chunk of South America.
Quite the range. Okay, so we know the who, when, where. Let's get to the what. What did Aeolosaurus look like? If you could see one, what's the impression?
Well, think classic sauropod shape, four-legged walker, plant eater.
Quadrupedal herbivore. Got it.
And definitely that long neck, long tail profile we associate with these giants.
And how giant are we talking? Was it one of the truly enormous Titanosaurs?
That's a good question, and there's actually a bit of debate, or at least different estimates, for A. rhinogrinus.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Gregory S. Paul, back in 2010, estimated it around 14 meters long. That's about 46 feet and maybe 6 tons.
Still pretty big.
Definitely. But then a more recent estimate from Melina Perez and Laramendi in 2020 put it quite a bit larger.
How much larger?
They estimated maybe 18.1 meters, almost 60 feet, and nearly 15 tons.
Wow, that's a substantial difference. Almost double the weight.
It is. It really shows how tough it can be to estimate size from incomplete fossils. But either way, a very large animal.
For sure. And its build. Was it slender or more tank-like?
More towards the tank-like, actually. Aeranogranus is considered pretty heavily built for a titanosaur.
Okay.
Its limb bones are described as being quite robust, sort of comparable in thickness to another titanosaur called Saltosaurus, which was known for being stocky.
So, a sturdy creature. What are the really specific features, the bone details, that tell scientists, aha, this is an Aeolosaurus?
A lot of it comes down to the tail vertebrae, especially the ones closer to the body, the anterior caudals.
The tail bones again.
Yep. One key thing is these bony projections on top called presigapophyses. In Aeolosaurus, they have a distinct downward curve.
A down curve.
That's a big identifier. Also, the chevrons, those V-shaped bones underneath the tail vertebrae. In Aeolosaurus, they have a specific concave shape on one surface and double connection points, double articular facets. Really technical details, but unique.
So these very specific shapes in the tail bones are like its fingerprint. Anything else about the tail? It seems pretty important for identifying it.
Absolutely. Those anterior tail vertebrae also had neural spines, the spikes sticking up that leaned forward. That's something it shared with a close relative, Gondwanatitan.
Forward-leaning spines, got it.
And the main body, the centrum of the vertebrae, in the middle of the tail were kind of elongated.
Longer than usual.
Relatively, yeah. And one more thing, the sides of the vertebrae had these shallow pits or depressions called lateral fossa, also seen in relatives like Saltosaurus and Gondwanatitan.
It sounds like comparing these tiny details across different dinosaurs is how you build that family tree.
That's exactly right. And speaking of the tail, there's more. The evidence suggests the whole tail probably had a strong downward curve.
The whole tail curved down.
Yeah, quite significantly. This seems to be a feature of the whole Aeolosaurini group it belongs to. The tail tip might have hung quite low.
Did that affect how it moved?
Paleontologists think it might have. It could have affected the function of a major leg muscle, the M. patofemoralis longus.
Okay, what does that muscle do?
It's crucial for pulling the hind leg backwards when walking or running. The idea is that the tail's downward curve might have given this muscle a better angle, maybe allowing for more powerful leg retraction.
Wow, so the tail shape wasn't just weird, it might have been an advantage?
Potentially, yeah. A biomechanical boost from its tail curve. It's pretty fascinating.
That really is. Did it have any armor? Some titanosaurs had those bony plates, right? Osteoderms?
Yes, it did. Like many titanosaurs in the Lithostroscia group, Aeolosaurus had osteoderms.
Okay.
They're described as being a bit unusual, though, most similar to those found in another titanosaur, Mendozasaurus.
How were they arranged? Do we know?
The thinking is they were probably in one or maybe two rows along the flanks, the sides of the body. A bit of extra protection.
Okay, so let's picture it. Heavily built, maybe 60 feet long, sturdy legs, a distinctive downward curving tail that might help it move, and some armor plates along its sides. Quite the animal.
Definitely an impressive creature.
So let's put it in its family context. Where does Aeolosaurus sit on the grand dinosaur family tree?
Okay, so broadly it's a sauropod, specifically within the Titanosauria group.
The main group of late Cretaceous sauropods.
Right, and within Titanosaurs, it's part of a more advanced subgroup called Lithostroscia. Even more specifically, Aeolosaurus is grouped with Gondwanatitan into their own little family or clade called Aeolosaurini.
Aeolosaurini. So those were its closest relatives.
Pretty much. Phylogenetics studies those analyses of evolutionary relationships consistently group Aeolosaurus most closely with Gondwanatitan and another one called Panamericansaurus.
And how do they figure that out? Is it still mainly the tailbones?
A huge part of it, yes. Those unique tail features we talked about are really critical for defining Aeolosaurini and figuring out who belongs where.
Right.
Analyses like one by Galena and Otero in 2015 compare lots of these skeletal details across many titanosaurs to build those relationship trees. It's like a massive anatomical puzzle.
And what about the different Aeolosaurus species themselves? The two Argentinian ones, Rhinogranus and Coleopensis.
The current thinking is that those two Argentinian species are indeed more closely related to each other than either is to that former species, A. maximus, which is now Aerodactyl.
Which makes sense given Maximus is now in a whole different genus.
Exactly. It reinforces that split and shows how our understanding evolves.
It really drives home that paleontology isn't static. The picture keeps changing.
Absolutely. And there are still fossils out there just labeled Aeolosaurus SP, meaning species indeterminate.
Ah, so they look like Aeolosaurus, but aren't assigned to a specific species yet.
Correct. Some of those might turn out to be new species down the line. And there's even ongoing debate about whether Gondwanatitan faustoi, its close relative, should actually be moved into Aeolosaurus.
Becoming Aeolosaurus faustoi.
Potentially. Most researchers keep them separate for now, but it's discussed. It shows there's still active work and interpretation happening.
Always more to discover or reinterpret. Okay, last piece. The world Aeolosaurus lived in. What was its environment like? Who were its neighbors?
So we're in the late Cretaceous Campanian and Maastrichtian ages. The fossil record shows it lived alongside other dinosaurs, definitely including hadrosaurs, the duck-billed dinosaurs.
Fellow plant eaters?
Right. And in some places, like the Allen Formation in Argentina, the local Aeolosaurus shared its habitat with a whole bunch of other titanosaurs, including one called Rochosaurus.
Wow, multiple types of titanosaurs in one place.
Seems like it. Plus, more hadrosaurs and even armored ankylosaurs. So it was part of a pretty diverse herbivore community. You can imagine quite a busy landscape.
It paints a picture of a really vibrant ecosystem. Well, this has been fantastic, really digging into Aeolosaurus, the windy lizard.
It's a great example, isn't it?
It really is. Amazing what we can learn from, often just bits and pieces.
Definitely. We've covered its name, its discovery in windy Patagonia, its impressive size, those really unique tail features, its place in the Titanosaur family.
Yeah, and how that classification is still being refined.
Exactly. It really highlights the ongoing nature of paleontology.
So as we finish up thinking about Aeolosaurus, here's something for you, the listener, to chew on. We know many Titanosaur fossils are incomplete. What kind of future discovery, maybe a really good skull, or more complete skeletons of the different species, what might that tell us that we still don't know about Aeolosaurus's life, its behavior, its exact relationships in ancient South America?
Yeah. A complete skull would be amazing.
It just reminds us that the story of these incredible animals is still unfolding right under our feet. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.